Hey, all, this is Cobra from Ravenwolf, and I just, man, we've had a lot of crazy shit going on in the gaming community as of late, and I wanted to, express my opinions on some of the matters. But this time, the last time we had like big controversies like this that, really affected me, would have been back in like 2014, I believe it was, at the E3 press conference. Showing the release of the Xbox One and all the crazy shit Microsoft was doing. But this time it's targeting, even one of my even more favorite companies, or former favorite companies, Blizzard. Uh, the makers of World of Warcraft and, the newly announced Overwatch and Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Diablo 3, and StarCraft. And uh, we just had the big Overwatch controversy, about one of the characters in the game, showing too much butt apparently, which personally I don't really even fucking care about Overwatch. I'm not, really interested in seeing another, you know, uh, TF2, related game out there anyways. And I know it's probably not even fucking remotely relative to, TF2. It's just I'm not a big fan of those games anyways. But so, and personally, I think that controversy was just so fucking stupid anyways. So, leave that for, whoever else to cover. My big controversy is the shutting down of, the private server, Nostralius Begins. And for those who actually don't know, like what Nostralius was and how big it was to the WoW community. Nostralius was a vanilla, a 100% Blizz-like vanilla private server, that was, had, I think, a total of like 30 a team of like 30 people who were developers and programmers and stuff like that. Because when you get the core package, server package for WoW, it's literally just the world, in NPC information. Everything else like pathing and itemization and everything else has to be, coded and scripted, from the raw data. And these guys spent like, I think, 2 or 3 years, before they opened Nostralius, coding it. And the server was so popular. It had over 850,000 people, that were registered, had registered accounts, and at the time of its closing, on April 10th of this year, just a little over, almost 2 weeks ago, uh, they had over 150,000 active players, myself included. Uh, and some other, famous big names, from YouTube and Twitch and whatnot, that were playing on there and even streaming. And Blizzard, sent a cease and Blizzard's legal team sent a cease and desist, to have the server shut down. Um, well, more so not telling them to shut the server down, but, uh, they threatened a lawsuit, and the Nostralius, developers and whatnot decided to shut down their server, rather than, go to court and potentially get, fined out the ass and, have this hefty lawsuit to deal with. So, with that, you know, uh, there's been a lot of stuff going on, as of lately, including, a former developer, that worked with Blizzard, back during, vanilla and I believe BC, Mark Kern, who, anyone who watches, YouTubers like Soda Poppin, who he is, been working with, Mark Kern basically announced that you know, if the petition, uh, that uh, the petition that we put out, could reach 200,000 or 200,000, signatures, he would personally put together a little thing to like personally take to Mike Morhaime, who is the CEO of Blizzard Entertainment, and basically show him and be like, look, here's the proof that you know that your fans want legacy servers, and they'd even be willing to pay for it. um and it's like, and here's a couple of reasons for that. It's like, and I know, it's like there's a lot of skeptics out there. There's a lot of people, a good many people who still play current WoW, and don't have too many bad things to say about it. But here's kind of the deal, though. If you talk to a good portion of the older community, it's like these are, some of the things that they're going to say right off the bat. That, it's like the current status of WoW is just, kind of diabolical. It's butchered, uh, and it's like, in a couple of reasons why for that. It's like one of the big reasons, at least for me, is the community. It's the community is essentially a bunch of sheep anymore. You don't really run into too many people, out in the open world anymore. World PvP is something that's completely dead because nobody's out running around anymore. It's like if you're level below level 90, you're in a major city somewhere, just with your heirloom set on, grinding dungeons, till you get to 100. It's like, in the moment that you get your garrison, you spend all your time in your garrison. So, it's like no one's, there's no closeness, community closeness anymore. And then, adding in the fact of cross server stuff, it's like you're not even really dealing with people on your own realm anymore. It's everyone else. Which, one of the other things is leveling and PvE content, that's kind of just gone completely, downhill. And it started back in Cataclysm with the world changes, and, the complete massive overhaul of the characters and the way class specializations worked, and, the removal of the talent trees, and basically just giving everybody the same stuff essentially, except for six spells or six abilities, passive or active, through the new talent tree that it's like, for the most part, really aren't that great. um you know and then, like I said, with the whole leveling and this and that, you anyone who's played in the last several expansions probably has, a full set of heirloom gear for just about any character. I collected this stuff mainly because there was nothing else to do, from the tail end of Wrath to, up to and including current content. I got bored with the content really quick, and, spent most of my time just grinding heirloom gear, for the hell of it, I guess. But you start off with a full fucking set of heirloom gear, and it's like uh, there's no gratification, there's no, uh, sense of achieving a goal, or getting that, upgrade. Uh, you know, you started with, a white piece of gear or even a gray piece of gear, and when you got a green piece of gear and you're like, oh my god, this is, awesome. I feel like I accomplished something with this. And just the joy of finishing quests. And now it's not like that. I mean, like I said, you can get a full set of fucking heirloom gear, uh with minus, boots, bracers, and a ring, or both rings if you didn't do the garrison naval bullshit. And basically go sit in Ogremar or Stormwind or wherever, and just level through the dungeon system. On top of that, it's like another really big one for me is, the role-playing side of things, and lore. When I first started, back in vanilla on Shadow Council, It's like there were, vanilla in BC. I mean, the mass majority of the guilds that were on Shadow Council were, very, very RP, RP related, and it's like even though they raided and PvP'd, it's like at their core they were, very affiliated with role playing, and because because the story was solid and understandable, and it made sense. It's like now, it doesn't. I mean, Draenor was just a mess as far as story goes, in my opinion. The whole, we had to figure out some reason to go back into time to an alternate parallel universe, to visit Draenor, just so we could have, go to Draenor, and it just sounded stupid, uh, and you know, Cataclysm. It's like Cataclysm was just, for me, utterly boring as far as any story goes. And MOP, I fucking hated altogether. I didn't even, I didn't care. I didn't care about fucking MOP whatsoever. The only reason I even played was because, I'd have friends that would come back for like 3 months and be like, oh, I want someone to run with. So, it's like, oh, okay, I guess I can come do that for a while. And, and then, 3 months later, I'd end up back in Minecraft or something, something that felt relevant. Um, and then, it's like it's like as far as RP goes, it's like it feels like since BC, you know, uh, the Blizzard just hasn't given a shit about fucking role players at all, because they used, it's like on the RP realms, they used to be the GM staff used to be very, very interactive, with you, uh, and even to a point, like even be in character and stuff, and they were very stringent, on the character names and this and that, which was always a big deal to me, because I hated people, coming on to our realm and having dumbass names that I'd expect to see in fucking Call of Duty or something. Uh, and and the one time that it seemed like they were doing us a favor, people cried out and said, "Oh, we like the old armor sets. They look so much better than the new stuff." And yada yada yada. And instead of trying to work harder on making better looking armor sets for everybody, they introduced transmogging. And at first, it's like, okay, I like this, I can make my gear look any way I want. But it's like the more I sat down and thought about it, and kind of riding off of one of Soda Poppin's last videos, it makes it hard. It's like, for us to identify things. For instance, back in vanilla, if you saw someone in tier one, it's like they were legitimately in tier one. It's like nowadays, you see someone that's got all their gear transmogged to tier two, and they got like the crappiest gear on ever. It's like you were forced to have to inspect people, on the armory, or, in person, to find out what, their, what gear they have. And which brings me to, the last one is PvP. PvP is utterly fucking ferocious right now. It's absolutely a fucking joke. I mean, unless you're, it's like unless you're a Frost DK, a Disc Priest, or a Feral, or some type of Druid, you're not really going anywhere. You're pretty much riding on the backs of those three classes. Um, you know, and it's just ridiculous. And it's like, and the one thing that I really looked forward to coming into Draenor was Ashran. It's like Ashran was supposed to be like this nostalgic. It was supposed to have us feel nostalgic for like old school Alterac Valley that would last 3 fucking days. And it just ended up turning up to be completely fucking stupid. It's like, and everyone, anyone who's done it fucking hates it. It's like, even me, it's like I look back at the countless hours that I spent in Ashran, and it's like there's a lot of times where I thought I was having fun, but it's like looking back on it, it was fucking stupid. Like everything I did in Ashran was stupid, you know, playing on, Wormrest and Moonguard and Bloodhoof. Like, I'd go into one faction, I'd play the Alliance for a few hours. Alliance would push the road, and kill Vol 15,000 every 15 minutes while the Horde ran around to all the vents getting all the conquest. And then, it's like then I'd turn around and I'd go over to my Horde character and it was the same, it was the same thing, but the Alliance were doing all the events and the Horde was stuck on the fucking road. Now, like, you know, it's just like there's always one dominant faction, uh, you know, that basically runs everything, and it's like, if you're the other faction that's sucking balls, you have to hope that maybe you can get something done and make your time worthwhile. Um, you know, and it's a complete clusterfuck. So, it's like, and then also too, like uh, the whole season, like from season one to season two, like the difference between the gear was actually amazing. And it helped. But like season two to season three, it's fucking pointless. It's like they literally gave us nothing to really strive for in this in season three here, because the literally the just the item level difference between season two and season three is 10 item levels. That's it. It's hardly worth even fucking going for. And it's not really going to give you that much of an edge over, over someone else. It's like someone that's in 740 gear fighting someone that's in 730. I mean, it's not going to be that much of a difference, so it seems utterly dumb to have to go through all that work through RBGs and arenas and grind all the conquest just to get a set of gear that's only 10 item levels higher. It's like PvPs this season, especially this season, and it's the last season. I mean, it's like we're not going to have anything new to do in PvP until Legion comes out, which introduces a whole bunch of other fucking problems. The big one for me being, we're introducing another fucking melee hero class. It's like as if we already don't have enough melee. We're gonna go ahead and add another one that's completely fucking overpowered and will probably remain that way through most of the expansion. It's again, it's like I made a rogue too. Well, my rogue's raid spot, if there ever was going to be any, is now fucking wiped off because why bring my rogue when you can have a fucking demon hunter, you know? It's like why bring a ret paladin or rogue or a feral druid when you can fill, your melee spots with demon hunters and, be, and do just fine. So, it's like there's a lot of issues that I have with current WoW, and it's no different than the opinions of those who played on private servers like Nostralius that understood the quality of maybe not so much the game itself, but a lot of the community differences. It's like when I was on the Nostralius PvE realm, which was only open for 5 months. Uh, it's like there was a gigantic change between the way people acted on there and the way people acted on retail. When I log into retail and just sitting for 5 minutes in trade chat, you hear all this political trolling bullshit. You hear all this religious trolling bullshit. It's just trolling. It's an extension of mindless communities from Reddit and 9gag and websites of the community sites like that are just utterly they got some mental issues going on up there because they all just, you hear the same crap all over and over again, oh, Naxxramas is Wrath of the Lich King, just that type of trolling ignorance, that makes me, like, okay, this is really stupid. Like, it's like back in vanilla, it's like there was definitely a difference between PvE realms and PvP realms. PvP realms, man, it was like playing Counter-Strike. Everyone's down each other's fucking throats. Who's better, who's got the most honor, who's the highest rank, that kind of stuff. But it was never like, I don't know, it was never like, saying and doing things just to piss a whole bunch of people off, and it's like, and that's exactly how the current WoW community is. People, the majority of the people, the things that they say and do are so highly inappropriate, it's made to piss everybody off. And it's utterly annoying for someone like me who's been playing for so goddamn long. Um, so, as something that Nostralius provided, it's like community was a big one for me. People were nice, for the most part, were nice to each other. Sure, you had a couple ninjas, but they got banned relatively quickly. Um, and Nostralius was quick to, reconcile and fix that issue. Um, there was also, because we didn't we weren't cross server with the PvP server. It's like the PvE server, all the PvP stuff we did, all the PvE stuff we did, it was all on one server. Um, you know, and I liked that. I remembered that back in vanilla, and I liked it. I hated I hated having to mess with other servers. Um, I liked just being in our own little community. And that's what, that was one thing that Nostralius offered. We were, it's like as far as PvP, we were only competing with, our own realm, um, and not having to worry about, world stats or whatever. Um, Another thing that Nostralius offered was legitimate, Blizz-like PvE and leveling. There, like I said, there was always a sense of, you know, um, a sense of accomplishment, when you raided, Molten Core for 3 fucking months and, you finally got that one piece of tier gear. You were happy with that, it's like, and when you saw, walking around in Ironforge on Alliance, which I played back in the day, uh, and seeing the people in tier 1 and tier 2 and just looking at them and being in awe and respected, and those people knew they were respected, and uh, you know, and remembered, all the stuff that they had to go through to get that gear, and the dedication that they had to have. Um, you know, and it's like, and finally, PvP. First and foremost, World PvP was always the most fun. Um, it's like it's like I didn't, when BC introduced arenas, I didn't really care about arenas. I wasn't a fan of small combat. It's like if we did quote unquote arena, we'd go down to Gurubashi and fuck around. Um, and but I liked big battles. So it's no surprise that Alterac Valley is, by far my favorite. Well, but World PvP, the battles that we had at Crossroads in the Barrens, and the battles that we had in Hillsbrad were some of the most fun times that I had with PvP. So, it's like these things were all offered, by Nostralius, and um, and when Blizzard, turns around and slams the hammer down on these guys, yeah, of course I'm really pissed. It's like, and at this point in time, it's like I don't even want to give Blizzard another fucking dollar, or even a fucking penny, uh, you know, and but yet, it's like on the other hand, it's like I also realized that, it's like Blizzard's legal team, it's like, the CEO may not even know that this has happened. That these guys went out and did that. It's like we won't know until, something is actually said, which is kind of another thing that's really bothering me with Blizzard is that, it's like they're just kind of treating this like the invisible elephant, like, the elephant in the room, uh, you know, like, you know, mommy's just slap or daddy's just slapped mommy at the dinner table and we're just gonna keep quiet about it. Like sort of, some fucked up situation like that. Like Blizzard completely ignores this shit, just thinking it'll just go away. Well, I'm hoping this time that's not the case. You have 200,000 people who have signed this petition, and, even a former Warcraft dev behind this. So hopefully, it's like this is the year that, Blizzard finally realizes, it's like this is a major crisis, and, there's an opportunity, there's always opportunities to be made when crisis, during crisis situations, and this is definitely something that Blizzard needs to take advantage of instead of just throwing out the fucking bullshit they threw out at BlizzCon of, all you think you want it, but you don't. No, this should prove that there's a lot of people who want this to happen. And, why not? It's like Mark Kern even made the comments that, it's like, during the first year of WoW, they were not even expecting, they were not expecting a million subs. It's like they put all this money, time and money uh, into WoW, uh, not expecting the outcome that they got. They were, they made this risk thinking that they were only going to have maybe a million people, uh, you know, play their game, and it was a huge success. So why not? Especially now when the money for, the when the money to for the bandwidth for the to run the vanilla server wouldn't take much at all. Um, you know, these guys only had to pay, I think, a little, about $150 or something like that to run a server that had two realms on it, and supported, I think, 4,000 people each, and you know, it wouldn't cost much, is what I'm saying. Um, you know, and it would depend on how many realms they'd want to put out, but I think they could get away with maybe putting out 4 or 8, so they would, barely be spending $1,000 to keep these servers up and running, and they'd be making a lot more than that. But as some other people have said, it's like Blizzard's probably, it's like Blizzard's natural response is probably going to be, nah, we don't want to dump money into that when we can dump money into our other games and profit more from it. But I think they would actually profit more from this, you know. But that's my personal opinion. Either way, I think Blizzard needs to figure out something to do, and we need to be addressed, um, and instead of just ignoring the big elephant that's in the room, they need to, address us and, make come to some decision. And no matter what it is, I just, it's like I hope for the sake of, us older players and people who really love the game at this time and, fell in love with the game at this time, that, it's in our favor, unlike, multiple times before where where we failed. And, Blizzard's just kind of, brushed off. So, that's my opinion on it. At this current point in time, I think Blizzard's a bunch of fucking money grubbing fucksticks that just want to continue to, uh, you know, turn, the current wild community into a bunch of fucking robots, and pretty much give everybody everything, that they could ever want. So, they don't have to hear any bitching and whining and complaining about it. Uh, you know, and yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So hopefully we'll see some changes here soon. Really hope so, because if not, I guess, I guess a lot of us will have to find a new game to play. Until that point, adios.